with that, I suppose it falls to me to bring everything to order. And I'll explain that. Our chair, Carl Dickens, is recovering from surgery. He's actually taking the doctor's advice and resting and recuperating. And we wish him a speedy recovery and a complete recovery. So as such, he won't be able to fulfill the duties of chair. That would normally fall to our vice chair, Mike DePalma. Mike is in a situation where he's going to be able to listen and participate, but there might be a lot of background noise for a work function. And so he kind of deferred. And so Carl, in his wisdom, appointed me as acting chair just for tonight. So I'll take us through the meeting and through the agenda. And let's consider this the call to order at 6:04. Larry, is this recording for Telesco? I see recording and I see a little light, so I agree. I think it is, right?
Yes, it is.
Cool. Thank you. The first order of business would be to establish attendance. So I'll do that. Please, authority members, as I call your name, just note your presence. So Joe Andrasco, I'm here. I'll just go on screen. Jennifer McAllister.
Here.
Denise Brown. I can see her saying here.
Here.
Thank you. Rayanne Bromark.
Here.
Mike DePalma.
Here.
Darius Williams. Barbara Shake.
Here.
Okay. John Goodchild, not present apparently, and Carl Dickens, not present. Okay, so as quorum is established, we can proceed. We have two sets of minutes, one from our January 21st, 2021 meeting. Let's take these individually. So are there any questions or comments on the January 21, 2021 minutes?
I have comments.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, on the attendance, on the January 21st meeting minutes, it says that you arrived late. So under attendance, where it says Jennifer McAllister arrived at whatever time, we need to establish the time that you actually came in. Then under absent, we have to get rid of the comma before John Goodchild's name, because there's a comma there that shouldn't be there. Then under, I think, page 3, it says under update course maintenance report presented by Jim Shell, it says Mr. Andrasco joined the meeting. We need to have it italicized, just like when Jennifer joined the meeting on page 2. And then we also need your time. And then on page 4, under C, supporters of Oak Hills Park Authority update, Jerry Crawley. In the last sentence, it says a mailing will be sent out to those on the Oak Hills list, and a link will be placed on the authority website. I actually want to change to the Oak Hills Park website home page, because as you see, if you click on the website now, it's actually on the home page to support the presenter. So I want it to be, instead of authority, Oak Hills Park, and then home page. And I think that's it I have for those minutes.
Okay, thank you for those. As per on page 3, Mr. Andrasco joined the meeting. I can't establish a perfect time, but I have a text that I sent to Carl at 6:50 that night saying I'm joining soon. So we can just say 6:50. I think that also comports with it coming after Ms. McAllister joined. Any other comments or questions on the January 21st minutes?
Yes, I have 2 on page 3.
Both of them are the same correction. In the middle of the page, under Update Course Maintenance by Jim Shell, it leads off by saying Mr. Gartner presented this report. It should read Mr. Shell presented this report. And then in the next section underneath the motion passed unanimously, it says again, Mr. Gartner then gave a brief overview. It should say Mr. Shell then gave a brief overview. That's all I have.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, can we get a motion from one of the authority members to approve the minutes?
I'll approve it.
Okay, that's a motion. Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Williams seconds. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we accept the January 21st minutes. On to the, I think, March 3rd minutes, is it? From the special meeting of March 3rd.
I have comments.
All right, let's have them.
First of all, they spelled Carl's last name wrong everywhere they put it. So for starting from attendance and then everywhere else he's mentioned for call to order, clubhouse, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go through every page, but Carl's last name is spelled incorrectly. So we need to fix the correcting of his name there.
And to be clear, it's spelled D-I-C-K-I-N-S, and it should be D-I-C-K-E-N-S.
Correct, yes. Then also in the attendance, they did not include me, and I was in attendance of that meeting. And they also did not include Paul Gardner, a golf professional who was also in attendance of the meeting.
So that's add Rayanne Bromark to attendance and add, it's not Paul Gardner, add Paul Alexander, golf pro, to the staff.
Correct. And that was all I had for that set of minutes.
Okay. Any other attendees have comments or questions on the March 3rd minutes? Hearing
Motion
none.
to accept.
Okay, Bob, Mr. Shake, motion to accept. Any second? Can I second as the chair? I feel like I should be able to
I
second.
think
things.
so.
You
You
can.
Well, I second it then. I'm going to take it.
Okay.
Any opposed? And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Not having been in attendance, that makes sense. Okay. All right, let's consider it passed for the March 3rd minutes. And let's move on to public comment. I know we had a couple of people sign up for public comment, and Larry, I'm not exactly sure how all this works. So
Yeah, if anyone from the public would like to speak, please raise your hand now electronically and I will unmute you. You'll be allowed to speak. I do have two people that are actually panelists that have raised their hands. So we'll start with Bill Wren.
okay, Mr. Wren, please just, I guess we already know your name, that helps, but just let us know your address and then we'll have 3 minutes for you to prepare, give comments.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Wren. I live in 67 Weed Avenue in Norwalk. And so I'm kind of a neighbor, almost a neighbor to Oak Hills Park. And reason I came tonight, because I'm interested in what you're talking about, but I'm particularly interested in the natural beauty of Oak Hills Park. I know that many of you play golf and you must enjoy the beauty and the trees, and as well as the ability to play golf there. And as you know, Oak Hills is a public park, and therefore I think my impression is that the authority needs to balance the needs of the public as well as nature, and in addition to providing a good place to play golf. So my concern is recently noticed trees that have been taken down, and I'm sure there was a reason for it. But I think according to the city tree ordinance, those trees really should have been marked with a red flag or some kind of indication that the trees would be cut down before they were actually removed. So I think that that's important, just to inform the public, and so that if someone objected, you would be able to explain the reason. That's right in the Norwalk City tree ordinance, and would be something that you could work with the tree warden to make happen. And I know in the past they did that, but I think more recently the trees have not been marked prior to being removed. My second concern is that I know that sometimes trees have to be removed for golf play, but I think that there's a tendency, and not just at Oak Hills, but in other golf courses, to remove more trees than is really desirable, not only for the golf playing members, but also for the public. And the trees, as you know, provide a great environmental benefits for the citizens. And Oak Hills is the second largest park in Norwalk. And so the trees at Oak Hills benefit everybody. It's not just the people who go to the park, that the trees are cleaning the air and compensating for some of the effects of global warming. So, and as you know, Oak Hills has actually, or not Oak Hills, Norwalk in general has the tree canopy is less than many other towns in Fairfield County, including Stamford and Bridgeport. So I think priority in Norwalk should be to maintain our trees, not just trees in Oak Hills, but the trees all over the city, including on private property. So my pitch, the reason I came today, is for you as the stewards of Oak Hills Park to be very careful about what trees you're going to be taking down, and have a really good reason. And when trees are taken down, to plan for future growth, to plant more trees, which is what's also included in the tree ordinance. Another suggestion is that the Oak Hills Park should consider joining Audubon International, which certifies golf courses for environmental stewardship. And it seems to have a lot of benefits, not only for golf, but also for the environment. And it's kind of, in the way that Norwalk is considered a tree city, I think Oak Hills, it would be a good marketing thing to be an Audubon certified golf course. And there's no detriment to golf. It's not anti-golf. It's actually beneficial to the golfers, as well as benefiting nature, and to protect the land, protect the trees for future generations, and to make the course more sustainable. So
Mr. Wren,
that's pretty much
just
all I
about
have.
3 minutes, so if you can wrap up.
Okay, well, that's it. I just,
Oh, okay, perfect.
Knocked it
No,
off.
thank you. Thank you very much for your comment.
thank you for listening.
Next, we have Diane Laricella.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, Joe.
You know the story. Address, and please keep it to about 3 minutes.
Yes, I heard that. Thank you. My name is Diane Laricella. I live at 21 Blue Mountain Ridge Road in the Cranberry section, but I'm a citizen, have been so for almost going on 40 years. Can't believe time has flown. The reason I'm here tonight is because I want to echo everything that Mr. Wren said. I didn't know he would be speaking tonight, so I will cut short some of the things I was going to mention. I first of all wanted to thank everyone on this call who are volunteering for Oak Hills Park Authority. And I, of course, hope, Carl, a speedy recovery in this time of COVID and the like. I wanted to just let you know I have that connection to the Oak Hills Park Authority because back over 20 years ago, there was a potential problem, a threat to quite a bit of the woodlands when a driving range was proposed. Many of us thought it was proposed in the wrong part of the park, And it caused a lot of discussion about trees and the need to preserve many of the trees in this park. For those on this call who do not know, I am the founding president of the North River Watershed Association and a former longtime member of the Norwalk Land Trust. And I'm not saying that to let you know how great an environmentalist I am or citizen. It's because I want you to know that I take these matters seriously and have been a long-time advocate for balance as far as environmental management. And because this is a city property, I am very concerned when I find that our trees, which have great ecosystem service value, you can literally look at a tree and thank goodness the economists are now putting literally dollar values on trees by the girth, the type, and the height. And I too have walked the park and walked with others and have approached the city and your nature committee and the City of Norwalk Department of Public Works with concerns about a need to much better use a better process in that the tree ordinance implies and commands by not only the letter of the law, but also the intent of the law to preserve trees that are needed. Now, in the case of emergency problems, yes, there is at times when trees must be taken down. But I just wanted to speak today to request, it's my fervent wish that because these trees and the vegetation have value and they retain carbon, we're in a climate crisis, and I'm not an eco-nut. I am a professional, pragmatic environmental scientist. I want us to work together. And you have some wonderful volunteers in the Oak Hills Nature Committee, as well as our Tree Advisory Committee and the Conservation Commission. All of us should be working together with the Oak Hills Park Authority to see where we can preserve, where we need to make sure that things are protected. We need to establish a much better process because from my read on what is happening as recently as last week, we have a serious issue here at Oak Hills Park, and some trees have been taken down that have a lot of ecosystem service value. And these are not the trees of Oak Hills Park Authority. They belong to the citizens of Norwalk. So I am sure that once we acknowledge this process, we have to make sure that our tree warden is well advised in advance and that you utilize your nature committee and the Tree Advisory Commission to give you the approval, not Mr. Shell or some of the other staff. We need to make sure that there is a seamless process so the rest of us can rest assured that we preserve this wonderful gem of a golf course, a tennis court, and woods that we've preserved. Thank you very much.
And that's about 3 minutes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Was there anyone else signed up or who raised a hand?
Yeah, next we have Larry Schwartz.
Well, Mr. Schwartz, if you unmute and just announce your address and then keep it to about 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Larry Schwartz. I live on Twin Ledge Road. My backyard is up against the golf course. I'm also on the Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee. I just want to echo what Bill and Diane said, and I too am concerned about the trees, and I don't need to add any more. They all made excellent points, and I agree with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments and for confirming their comments.
Is there
I
any
don't,
that
is that all, Larry?
Yes.
Yes, that's all.
Oh, there's two Larrys. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. And thank you, Mr. Manzi. Okay. And so that will adjourn public comment. Item number 4 on our agenda was an update from the golf pro, Mr. Alexander, thinking about the 2021 vision and what's being worked on right now. So Paul, take it away. If we can try for about 5 to 10 minutes, that would be great.
Sure, I can be quick. for those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Alexander. I'm your head golf pro at Oak Hills Park. I've been at Oak Hills for 10 or 11 years, and I was your new head golf professional in June of last year. I have lots of visions for Oak Hills Park, and every year a golf facility must make improvements. I'm going to fill you in a little about for 2021, and if anybody likes to ask me questions, you can feel free to do so. As far as COVID goes, the golf industry is expecting a really, really strong first half of the summer. And as people get vaccinated, maybe people go back to work, we might see a little bit of a shift. But, the good news is we had 2 million people enter the game last year and even 1.5 million left. So we netted 500,000 people. So golf's going to be strong, I think, for a couple of years to come. Just to give you a little update on 2021, we have 18 holes open since March 13th. That's our greens, and people want to come for the greens. We have no golf carts yet. It's kind of just a little cold and wet this year so far. The weekends have been busy, but the weather's been a little cold during the week. We have 68 brand new club car golf carts with GPS units in our barn, all ready to go. They look beautiful, and we have a beautiful new power washer coming to keep these really nice carts in good shape and nice and clean, and it's commercial grade. We also, just in case, we have created ourselves and made them ourselves 50 see-through cart dividers. It's going to cost us about $100 or more. So, and I've seen them advertised for $2,000 for 50 or even more. So we have a gentleman who's helping us save some money, an employee at Oak Hills with us. We're also going to bring in 4 new tempo walkers. They're just basically a little cart. You put a little battery Wi-Fi on your belt, and this little cart carries your golf bag and follows you around the golf course. So it's kind of like fun to see how they work. We have 6 new rental sets coming this year, and we have 6 from last year. So we'll have 12 total, pretty good shape. 20 push carts. Sometimes we have to close the course due to wet weather, so that's very important. Many of them are brand new. The golf shop already has $30,000 worth of merchandise in it. Our 2 big companies this year will be Callaway and TaylorMade. They're top 1 and 2, and I don't know if we had much Callaway in the past. We have Christine Fitzgibbons coming back to Oak Hills. She's been there 5 years. She left. I got her to come back, and she's going to kind of be our golf shop manager for a while. She started February 20th. We've also trained 3 new staff members, anticipating that we're going to need their help this summer, and myself as well, in the golf shop, point of sale, Easy Links tee sheet. We have nice windbreakers coming for our staff. It's going to say staff. It's going to have our logo. People are going to be able to pick out our staff. We gave them nice shirts last year, so we're going to try to get everybody looking good. Our golf shop has 8 staff members, 45 years of experience at Oak Hills Park. This weekend, because we don't have a restaurant at the moment, I have had some complaints already this year and definitely years past, but I'm going to try to have a little coffee, water, butter rolls, some protein bars available in the golf shop for our golfers. We're trying to get 4 college interns this year to work at Oak Hills. We give one to Jim Shell, myself, and Mark Gartner, somebody in the golf shop, and then put someone in carts. I'm also actively seeking a PGA professional to help teach some golf, because we definitely have a lot of lesson interest at Oak Hills and a lot of new golfers this year and last. All of our 15 outside staff members are returning for 2021. That's 75 years of golf experience working at Oak Hills Park. We have 15 outings this year. I think last year we had 6 or 7. We already have 15 in the books, pretty much 2 tournaments, 2 leagues, and another 4 possible outings on the schedule. Half of them have given us deposit checks, and total it's well over $100,000 in revenue there on the schedule. I have interest in GPS advertising, T-sign advertising, and even a yardage book. And someone's willing to kind of pay for a lot of that and do some advertising with us. Newly refurbished bathrooms on the first tee last fall and this year. I'm sure Jim Shell will talk about our new roof administrative building. Our Wi-Fi network just yesterday has been tuned up, improved, and really upgraded for the whole facility, and mainly our carts. Our website has been worked on by myself for the last many months. If I tell you, I probably was in contact with them 100 times to making corrections and stuff. So you could have a look at that. All our 2021 rates have been added to our SKUs for the POS. And we are upgrading our POS this June to the flagship POS. The one we have is outdated and it's out of the line soon, and that will be at no charge. I'm also starting a free learn to play golf program. I'm gonna start with a couple kids I know at Colonial Village. I'm gonna try to get the Carver Center involved. And Jerry Crowley has secured transport for us. So that's gonna be great. And I have a good friend who on the higher up of scale of things, but I'm gonna try to start a caddy program at Oak Hills, 4 to 6 kids. And there's an opportunity I may have that if they do well with this program, they could be awarded a scholarship to Norwalk Community College. We're also doing a lot with Norwalk High School and Brian McMahon High School because their golf teams are not so good, and we're just gonna really give them a good opportunity to become a little better. And as always, we have a PGA Junior League team schedule, 12 golf clinics for people from Darien. We have 4 5-week women's golf clinics scheduled, 5 5-week junior clinics scheduled, golf schools scheduled for juniors. And then I'm also trying to secure a membership through the Golf Channel, and who's just moved their headquarters to Stamford. And that would really be a good thing for Oak Hills. We also started a new junior golf association at Oak Hills. So that's going to be, I anticipate probably a couple hundred kids there. Going to put a nice Connecticut state flag below our American flag on the first tee. We have some first aid and CPR training coming for our staff in April. And I was contemplating, maybe with the advice or help of some other people, possibility of bringing in some food trucks if it was allowed until we get our restaurant going. Maybe serving some breakfast sandwiches or some hot dogs. I've already been in touch with a few people. And then lastly, which Joe, I do appreciate your help, and Mark, and I think we really did a good job here, but I think we sold 64 annual passes this year. Last year we had 85. We have 23% less annual pass holders, which means a lot more tee times, I believe, from 10 in the morning to 12, and a lot more available times for us to sell to make revenue. And I think it's going to make a lot of people happy. And we also have gone from 14-day advance booking to 8-day advance booking. And if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer anything if you like.
Paul, that's a great and comprehensive and really great update. Are there any staffing concerns that you have? I know you've mentioned all the people that you've got lined up, but is there any part that you're finding trouble getting folks or anything along those lines?
No, I think we have a great golf staff, and I got some young people coming in, and then a highly educated another lady who come in, and Christine may be moving on to another job, so I have to prepare, to replace her, which I think she will help us do. But yeah, if I could find someone to teach a little golf, which I will, I just want to get a quality person. But
Sure.
right now it's very difficult for whatever reason. A lot of head professionals are complaining that we can't find enough people, and that's just my only area of concern.
Okay.
Can I make a comment here on Paul's last remark, though, about the tee times and the 8-day tee time, which we discussed, but me being as a golfer and doing a resident pass, for the $120 that we're doing it for this year, and having to go on the 5 a.m. at 7 days prior, I am not getting a tee time, which Paul can vouch for, until noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon because of these certain tee times. So I personally still have an issue over our actual annual passes or membership passes, whatever we're discussing it, and actual Norwalk residents who actually buy the resident pass and getting tee time. So I still think we need a discussion about that. So.
Okay.
I would think that, and we'll have to see how this goes. We're definitely going to have a lot less annual pass holders kind of gobbling up tee times, and hopefully The 8-day advance will also make a difference there. And then obviously we can revisit it next year, and maybe we don't even need the annual pass next year.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of thing that we continue to tweak and we continue to experiment with, right? No product is ever fully formed the first time out, and there's always versions. So we'll continue to adjust as we see it is not addressing the concerns from the community. But we also have to make sure we still provide a value with that product. Any other comments or questions for Paul?
I
I
have
have a question, Paul.
Mhm.
I was just wondering if you said you were going to be involved with the Golf Channel, what does that actually mean? Is that like interviews or? Is
No,
that...
no. I mean, my family is, heavily involved in the golf world and kind of well known. So we have some contacts there, and they've moved their corporate headquarters here. And a lot of those people play golf now. They're obviously going to go to some of the nice private clubs in the area, but there's going to be a big need for them to come to a public golf course. And I'm just going to try to maybe establish some sort of an account where maybe they buy a certain amount of tee times and they can use it like a debit card.
Oh, okay.
But it's just going to be golf staff from the Golf Channel, hopefully coming to play our course. And I'm sure in the long run, it would be some good publicity.
Maybe we can get them to interview you.
Yeah, they did once a long time ago. It would be nice one more time, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, though.
Barbara, I saw you.
Yes,
scroll.
I just, not for Paul, just to put it on record, Paul Cantor made a comment also asking us to be more careful about the tree situation. I guess he was having maybe a hard time participating in the meeting. I answered his question in the Q&A, and I'm just putting it on the record that Paul Cantor is also concerned about the trees.
I see.
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is, I believe, course maintenance.
The big
So
bad
the
devil
superintendent's
himself.
report with Mr. Shell. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so everything on the course is looking good coming out of the winter. We don't have a speck of disease on the greens. I think this is the first time since I've been here that we have been clean coming out of the winter at this point of the season. And I think, unfortunately for the speakers tonight, that I think in part it's because of the work I've done to make the sun more accessible to the greens. Otherwise, everything is going along as normal. The winter wasn't too bad. We didn't suffer too much damage as far as limbs coming down, trees coming down from heavy snows, blah, blah, blah. The new upgrades for the irrigation system are all in, which we spent some money on over the winter, and they're functioning as they should. At least they're communicating as they should. We'll see if they function as they should once we put water in the pipes and ask them to function. But they should, we should pick up another level of efficiency with water out on the golf course, and they'll definitely be a little bit more reliable as well. There are only two things I want to talk about. Otherwise, there's a woman who lives off the first hole in a gray house, and she has recently had a tree removed from her property. It was a tulip tree, and she was claiming that it was loaded with termites, ants, and the like. And she also claims that there is a very large twin-stemmed tulip tree that is on our property that are also infested with bugs. And she also claims that they're going to come down on her house if they come down. Now, I went to take a look at the trees. They are by no means looking like they are infected, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, they're right next to another tree. When trees come down, they're hollow on the inside and you could never tell. So I also looked at the map on Norwalk's GIS website, and it appears that the trees are on her property, but I don't know how reliable those lines are on the GIS website. So I'm gonna have to contact somebody with the city and find out, you know, are they reliable? Because I need to talk to this lady and tell her that they're not our trees and that it's not on us. So that's just something I'm dealing with right now. And the last thing I want to talk about is the old pro shop and the administration building. It's now watertight. The roofs are up, but they're not complete. The flat roof's not complete because the fascia boards that go around the building on the side of just underneath let's call this the roof and this the fascia board, okay? They're all rotten and need replaced. And it's significant extra work to the tune of $1,990. And that's only what they uncovered and they can see now. Once they take that off, if they discover that rafters behind that are rotten, then that's even more extra work. So for the 2 sections of roof that they have completed, they have gone $687.50 over the $15,000 that was approved in the special meeting. So whatever, we're going to have to find that money somewhere. We're going to have to approve that money because it did go over. They found rotten pieces of plywood. They found a couple of rafters that were underneath the rotten pieces of plywood. And it's chances are they might not find any more rafters that are rotten, but the fascia definitely was covered up last time that roof was done in a rotten state, and they need replaced now. So I guess we should discuss how we're going to handle the overage on the original contract, and then how we're going to handle the $1990 that we need to spend to fix the fascia.
So I'll ask the authority members. Jim had sent around some pictures of the damage. Has everyone seen that? It's a lot of darkened, blackened wood, right? The fascia boards that are not in good shape.
I have a question.
Joe, excuse me, I never received any pictures. I have no pictures yet of any disrupted wood or whatever, so.
Okay. Let me,
Thank you. So
Yeah, I didn't get any pictures.
I didn't either.
Maybe
The
I can
pain is
try
pretty
to-
bad. No, that tooth stuff is pretty bad.
I will send them out to folks now.
So just took me right now.
So I mean, first of all,
And it took
we have
2
no
minutes, like
clue like
1:30.
what you're
So
talking about,
sooner I
so.
should.
Somebody's got some background noise that needs
Yeah,
to.
I've muted Bob. So Bob, if you need to speak, just unmute yourself. But I'm gonna send these out right now. And you know, if you can check your email, it's not pretty stuff. It's really ugly stuff.
Can I just ask a quick question? When we agreed to the not to exceed thing, we had mentioned about going back to the contractor because he had given us the 2 prices for the pitched roof and for the flat roof. And then we were going to say, let's go back and see if we can get a better price if we do the 2 roofs at the same time.
Yep.
We did that, right?
Yes. Yes, he took $200 off of each, so $400. But then with all the extra rotten wood that he had to do in the process that was hidden, I mean, we just can't see it.
Right.
We ended up $687.50 over the $15,000.
Okay, so all in the damage was about $1,000. We saved the $400 by renegotiating because we were doing it at the same time, so the impact $600. Okay.
Correct.
In the meantime, if I just want to do the math in my head, so Jim, if we have about $700 of the overage plus just about $2,000 of estimated additional work, but there's also an unknown possibility. So I guess
Yes.
the minimum amount that we would have to approve is $2,700, but going up to potentially 5,000 or?
I just don't know how it could get that high, but I'm surprised now by what the sisters cost to put in. So let me just try and get an idea. I don't think it should reach that much. I mean, it could reach 3. Excuse me. Instead of 1990, it could reach 3. So then we'd probably go to 37, I think, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
But I was short before. I could be short again. I just don't know. I feel like we could just, it's coming, the bill is coming from a separate company. I feel like we can call it maintenance instead of a capital. I don't know. I don't know how that would work financially or legally or whatever. But
Under $1,000, wouldn't that be?
Under
No,
5 does not need approval.
correct. But we have a fixed asset policy, a capitalization policy of $500. And to me, this is all the same work. So it's the same project, and it
already been
is
initiated.
basically a new roof, which is a capital. So I would like to keep it in capital, but other stuff that Jim has done has gone to his budget that you could have made an argument for to go against capital budget. So we're still, I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you mean by I think we'll be fine, Mark.
I guess I'm saying it's the capital budget could have been higher had we put a few other things there as well.
Mark, my question is, do we have to redo a vote, or are we fine with both capital budget and the amount that we originally gave Jim of the 15,000 ahead of time? And then with capital budget covering the rest, or do we need a new motion tonight? So
I think that's why Jim's bringing it up, because to me, this is all part of the same project, which was already voted upon to not exceed 15,000. And now that it's exceeding it, I think we need to have an amended vote, if you want to call it that.
yeah,
Because it is the same project. So that's why I want to get a dollar amount and try to figure out what the max would be. And then once we voted here, hopefully we come in under. But if it is a little higher, we're still covered and not going against any breaking any rules.
correct. I think that was the same question I was asking, just in a different way. So
Sure.
So let me, I'm not gonna see if everyone has gotten the email and has been able to review it, but let me, if I'm able to, share my screen. And we can just briefly look at these pictures. So this should be my email. These are the fascia boards that Jim is mentioning. This would usually have flat roof and then aluminum that goes over, flashing that goes over it like this to keep it very dry and so that it would not rot. And this is one of 3 sides of that flat roofed room that juts off of the building. And as I kind of scoot down, this is another side. You can see all the signs of mold formation, decay.
You should see it when they took that aluminum off. I mean, it looks just like that right there on the corner.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty bad.
gone. It's gone.
This is bad. And so, at the special meeting on the 3rd of March, we said that the 15,000 allotment, or the what's the word? Allotment of capital expense to fix these roofs is worth it, because this building is a long-term asset. It's structurally sound, its foundation is good, its walls are good, its bones are good, and we want to have it for other uses. It seems to me that this is expected when you open up a roof. At least every time I've opened up a roof, this is kind of what happens. It's certainly not a surprise. We were hoping for the best, but we got a little bit worse than the best. It would make sense to me to kind of make a motion, someone from the floor, from the authority, to make a motion, if we agree with it, to increase the appropriation to some reasonable level. I don't think we want to, go too far overboard, and I personally wouldn't be comfortable increasing it to above $20,000. But if, Jim, you had a recommendation for the amount we should increase it to, we'd be.
Yeah,
receptive to it.
I would suggest, I mean, if we feel safe at 18.7, I would suggest 19 for sure. And, if I can't imagine it getting any higher than that.
If I can just put a few numbers together so everyone's aware. We currently have spent $30,000 on CapEx out of a $75,000 budget. Plus, that's not including the 15 that Jim that we've already allocated. So 30 will become 45, and if we go for another 4, that would become 39,000 out of 75,000.
That would become 49,000 out of the 75.
That's exactly what I said.
You said 39.
No, I'm just joking.
All right.
I'm sorry, Mark, can you say that, because I did not get that. I'm sorry. I'm dyslexic when it comes to numbers, okay?
We have a $75,000 in the budget, and once this is fully spent, if we approve an extra $4,000, we will be at $49,000.
Okay.
So Jim, do you think there's any other surprises there, or do you think that you've kind of found it what?
Well, the extra surprises that could come are on one side of the flat roof behind the fascia, which is particularly rotten. It is possible that the ribbon that goes on the outside of the rafters that nails all the rafters together on the edge. You have rafter, you have another rafter, you have another rafter, and you have a board nailing them all together to create an edge behind the fascia. When they take that fascia off, that board could be to a point of needing to be replaced, and I'm kind of accounting for that because they're actually expecting that to happen. But as far as the rafters themselves, they think that they have discovered all the ones that need replaced and replaced them already, which is part of the overage on the original job.
So if we assume that they found all the rafters, and now we're worried about the fascia boards, that's the piece, correct? And we know we've already identified a portion of what's already been damaged. If we just assumed, logistically speaking, that they're all damaged, did he give you a price on what it would cost to repair that?
Oh, the fascia is getting completely replaced all the way around.
Okay.
So yes, we do have that price, and that's part of the overage we're asking for tonight.
So,
okay, that's assuming what we don't know at the moment, assuming that it is also rotted.
What we don't know is the one board behind the fascia on the one side of the building.
Okay.
That could need to be replaced, and any rafters, when the fascia comes off, any rafters that might be rotten behind it. Meaning, if this is the fascia board and this is a rafter going into the fascia, the end of it might be a little rotten, but they think that they've seen them all and that they should be okay. So
can I technically make a motion? You guys might all hate my motion, but can I make a motion of accepting another like $10,000 to the fixing of the full roof of the past clubhouse, whatever we want to call it, and just go from there. I mean, $10,000 might be too much, but I mean, can we suggest like $10,000? And as long as it doesn't go past the $10,000, we're okay.
Do you think we're good at 5?
I mean,
Definitely do.
I mean, if the expert here on this call is not asking for 10.
I mean, I just don't know, you guys. I was just
True,
putting out a
true.
figure.
Right,
so-
but the best we can do is trust our experts. He's
Right,
saying it's
so-
more in the 4 to 5 range. So I would be more comfortable. I'm assuming that was a motion, Rayanne, and so I wouldn't second it. The discussion would be, I think
Yeah.
it could be more aptly done at 5 or 4 even.
I would say even 6, just to be on the very safe side.
Yeah, so I would like to keep it less than 20. So 5 would be my maximum.
Okay,
So would
And
I make
so-
a motion not to exceed $5,000?
Additional on top of the
Correct.
15 already.
Total, right, $5,000 to fix what we know and what we potentially don't know, not to exceed a total roof project of $20,000.
correct.
In my opinion, the roof is open, the site is on crew, the crew is on site.
Mhm.
That seems appropriate, although I would second it begrudgingly, yes.
I mean, I'll second it, so.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Shall we do a roll call vote, which is what we're supposed to do? Actually, we can do voice vote for this, I think. I'll just say, all who approve, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think I heard 7 ayes, but any opposed? And any abstentions? Darius, you want to abstain?
I
Okay,
abstain.
okay, so let the minutes please show that Darius Williams abstained from this vote. So that would be 6 ayes, no opposed, and 1 abstention. So by that, it would pass. So we can up the cap, our allotment from CapEx now not to exceed $20,000 for this project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Jim,
that's,
any other
that's all
comments?
I have for tonight. I won't be asking for money until next month, so if anybody has any questions.
Next year.
Well,
Next
maybe,
year.
maybe next week.
It better be next year, Jim.
Maybe next week. Let's see. But if there's any questions for me from anybody, then let me know.
All right, hearing none immediately, I will say, let's go on to item number 6 on the agenda, financial report. Mark, if we can buzz through, I know financially, February is not the most exciting month, so hopefully
Yeah.
we can buzz through quickly.
Yeah, I'll trim it down a little bit. Real quick, just some general notes. Renewed our line of credit. That's been done already now for over a month. We can borrow up to $200,000 against our line of credit through November of this year. Business insurance renewals have been processed and took effect on March 1st. Travelers did accept our risk prevention plan, but it looks like due to a much higher rounds than anticipated last year, plus a higher valued cart fleet. So it doesn't matter that our cost is only very incremental. The actual valuation of the carts are quite a bit higher than the ones that we had from 4 years ago, naturally. So that together is causing an 14% increase on last year's original premium. And let me explain that. Last year, when we closed the course down, we called our insurance company and we lowered our estimated rounds to lower our premium, which they did, which was great. And we wound up paying $5,000 less this past premium year than the year before. And as opposed to going up, we were supposed to go up about 15%. So if the actual year-over-year increase is actually $20,000, 30%, so from $67,000 to $87,000. And unfortunately, as I spoke with our brokers, Some of this is simply COVID, some of it is golf courses. This is becoming the new standard. Rates are going up all over, and we were not in a position, we were not poised to do well because of our history of the last few years with many claims and being in a high risk category. So it is what it is, basically. Medical insurance premiums have been renewed as well with very minor changes. Those took effect those are taking effect on April 1st. I'm working through the current year's workers' comp audit, and I hope to finish that up on Monday. And then, as I mentioned last time, we have now completed our high-level fiscal year 2022 budget. It's been completed, approved, and sent on to the city's finance department. And I'm about to begin the much more detailed fiscal year 22 financial budget. So just a heads up to Paul and Jim, you'll be getting some emails from me next week to start the process for your portions of that. And as always, I'm happy to assist and do whatever we can. I'm sure we'll meet and go over those items. Then real quick, everyone has the financials, so I won't really linger on them. But I do want to just stress that cash position is much better than it has ever been since I've been here. We're up $203,000 over budget, $249,000 over last year without borrowing any money versus last year. We borrowed $190,000. So a net amount of $439,000 higher. So doing great so far. We've got to keep our foot on the pedal. In addition, while to that current cash balance, we've made $67,000 in debt payments to the city for this fiscal year. And lastly, as you just said, February is a quiet month. Unfortunately, this year, exceptionally quiet. We had not one single round played in February. So that's it. Paul already spoke about the passes. Just to put some dollars to that, we got just about $130,000 for those 64 passes versus just about 110 last year. So we've gone up in $20,000 in revenue that has not yet been recognized. This is revenue that will be deferred and recognized over the course of the calendar year 2021. That's my quick report.
Thank you, Mark. That's a really good point and something to add about the season passes. Though we sold less and we reduced the lead time from 14 days to 8 days to book a tee time, which hopefully, we truly hope, was designed to reduce the number of tee times that get taken by these folks and opens them up for the general public. We did not forego revenue. By raising the price, we were able to control demand. Therefore, we actually earned a little bit more revenue than we did in the first time out. So this is, again, on the experimentation side with this product. So that's a very good point. I will also mention that although the revenue will be recognized in the P&L over time, it is reflected in our cash balance. So when we talk about how much money we have in the bank, those receipts are reflected in our cash balance that Mark already mentioned.
Yeah, so we'd be about $130,000 less if we had not. Absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions?
Were you able to put the higher insurance rates into the 2022 budget before you submitted it?
No, the timing was off.
We put some modest increases in, but that's the fun of the preliminary budget is you
absolutely just
do what you can with what you know at the time, and then we'll sharpen our pencils, right?
Yeah. So and now that after my discussion with our insurance broker, it sounds like we can expect. Unfortunately, we used to have much lower insurance, and I was thinking after we got out of this high risk category, we'd kind of go back to where we were, and they more or less almost laughed and said that ain't going to happen. So at least I know for budgeting for the future, as Joe just said, when we do the more detailed one coming up, I have these hard figures, and I will estimate probably a little higher than increase for next year's raise. And again, it takes effect March 1st. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. So we have this 4 months of guesswork in the next year's budget.
All right. Any other questions for Mark? Hearing none. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And so we'll proceed on the agenda. I believe up next is committee reports, and the first under there is Mr. Crowley, who's going to share us supporters of Oak Hills. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, thanks, Joe. Hello, everybody. We're a little out of sync with this meeting and our monthly meeting. Our monthly meeting is going to go on tomorrow. So I don't have a lot of updates. And I'll try to get them to try to get Ernie to change it. So it's we're meeting, right before this meeting. As Paul said, I was fortunate to be asked the question or being told that you were kind of like an impasse on getting transportation for the needy kids in Norwalk to come up and give golf a try. And so I called a longtime authority member, Art Goldblatt, who runs the grassroots tennis for the city and has, I think, 15 or 20 years he's been doing that. So I asked him how he gets the kids to play tennis. And he said, we send our van out. I said, oh, you have a van? And he said, yes. So I told him our problem. He said he'd be happy to do it. So we're going to meet the first week in April when he comes back from Florida and firm it all up. So we'll be able to tell you, for sure what we're going to be doing next month. Like I said, we're out of sync, so I don't have a financial report as to what we received in the last month, but that will be addressed in our meeting tomorrow. So anybody have any questions? Okay, that's it.
Hi, Jerry?
Yes.
I have a question. When people make a donation, do they get anything in return of any type of receipt? Because I haven't seen anything go out, but or is there something online now that you make a donation? Do you get, obviously you must get confirmation when you make a donation online.
Yes, I actually made a donation and got a receipt immediately. Okay, and it looks complete that you can use it.
And is it a 501c tax ID on there too, if you wanted that?
I don't have it in front of me.
No,
I believe it is.
Is it part of the receipt?
Yes.
Or you don't know at the moment?
No, I'll find that out. I file mine away.
Okay.
Denise, I'm almost certain it is. I know I made a donation.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that, but a couple of weeks ago, and it was actually the receipt that I used was the email, and that was accepted by my company for a match. So it was all very legitimate.
Great.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself, but I believe that it was built into it. Yes.
All right, because when I made a donation by check, I never received anything.
Was this before it was set up?
Yeah, this was a check that we mailed in.
Yeah, you didn't go through the website.
Before the online was set up.
I will talk to Elsa because I know she was manually sending out thank you letters before anything was set up online.
Okay, thank you.
Yep,
something that I forgot to mention, sorry about this, but something that I forgot to mention is that the company that did the roof made a little bit of a donation in that the peak of the roof was incorrectly framed, and he had his guys go ahead and correct it. And that was some extra work that he did not put in there. I was expecting him to give me an invoice that he could give to Mark, and Mark would give him a receipt from supporters so that he could write it off on his. Let's see if that happens, but maybe he was just being a little sarcastic in that he was doing it for free instead of making a donation. Let's see. But I just wanted to mention that because, he's not going after everything. I just
That's
wanted
great,
to
and that reduces the overall overage of that project. So that's
Right.
extremely good. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Crowley? Thank you, Jerry. I would just say maybe after the meeting tomorrow, I think you said, if there's anything notable, if you just shoot a note out to the authority.
Sure.
All right.
and
Thank
do
you very
that.
much.
Okay, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the second committee report, which is the, I want to get the name right, the Nature Committee. Ms. Cosrin, do you want to give us the report, please?
Yes, the Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee.
I knew it was a more complex name.
Yeah,
Thank
you know, it's kind of lengthy. Yeah, I know Mr. Goldblatt, the tennis aficionado, and would love to find out more about his van. We had applied, as you know, for an America Walks grant a couple of months ago. We did not get the grant, but because the oval gravel walking path on the Great Lawn of the nature area is on the health department's Norwalker program. And so we were trying to bring in some folks who are in the underserved community to fulfill this grant, and a van would have been helpful, but we didn't get the grant. So we'll try again this coming year. In terms of fundraising, we've also got a new member of the Nature Committee, Casey McKenna, who works with Indeed. She's head of their philanthropic arm, and has us on a program called Benevity, where the employees of Indeed can make donations. And so we've been receiving some funds from that. So in addition to the supporters, there are some other routes that we're looking at for bringing funds in to be self-supporting as much as we can. I'm reporting also that we have a kiosk that Jim Shell and I met the other day and found a nice location, sort of between the clubhouse and the nature area, to acquaint visitors with what is over there. Oftentimes we're there and golfers will come up and say, I hear there's a nature trail, or I hear there's this or that. So it's going to be an informational kiosk, and Jim will be setting that up when the weather's favorable, and we really appreciate that. The Norwalk Historical Society on April 15th to celebrate Earth Day has an online lecture called Conservation Norwalk, a Present Day History. And they've invited Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee to be a presenter, along with the Norwalk River Watershed Association, the Norwalk Land Trust, and I'm also a board member of the Land Trust, the NRVT, the Norwalk River Valley Trail, and the Tree Alliance. So there are 5 local environmental groups that are going to be presenting. And so that's a wonderful invite and exposure for Oak Hills Park. And
What day is that again? I'm sorry for cutting
that's
off.
April 15th at 5:30. They're just starting to promote it. So it's a virtual lecture on conservation in Norwalk. And you know, there's a lot going on with webinars and especially in the environmental world, a lot going on. So they're catching a wave, and they want to highlight us. So I think that's terrific. On the Meadow, as you know, in fulfillment of the master plan for the park, we are embarking this spring on establishing it turns out a restorative meadow in the Great Lawn of the nature area on a former dumping ground that we discovered is underneath there. So first it was a meadow, now it's a restorative meadow. And we are planning how best to install that as economically as we can and as successfully. So this is a great boon to the park and kind of puts us on the map. Love to do a lot of promotion on that. And also we notice along the parking lot where it meets the nature area, there's oftentimes a lot of litter. So I'm just wondering if maybe there could be some kind of trash can or something. Maybe we'll put up some signage, something about litter there. I also want to invite someone from, Darius is on our committee. I'd like another representative if possible on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, this coming Tuesday, March 23rd, for the meeting of the Oak Hills Park Nature Advisory Committee to talk about some shared goals. Oak Hills Park is a park. I know the majority of it is the focus is on the golf course. But I think we can all agree that we want our natural world to be as healthy as possible for our children and grandchildren. I think our goals are very similar. And I'd like to see a little more continued synthesis between I don't want to feel like there's one side of the park and then there's another side of the park. There is a park and we all work together. So I'd like to see that become more and more fruitful. You know, brings me to the stewardship issue, which is the trees. I was alerted by a number of different people that trees are continually removed on the golf course. And so I think what I'd like to propose is some procedure where a tree that is brought forward, probably from Jim, and Jim does a great job. This is not a criticism of Jim. If a tree needs to come down for whatever reason, storm damage, disease, whatever, that it's brought forward for review and is examined, probably, you know, by the Nature Committee, by the authority, probably DPW, and let's take a look at it. Why does it need to come down? Because what's interesting is there is so much science right now about the importance of trees sequestering or capturing carbon from the environment, the pollutants from the environment, and replacing an old growth tree with a little seedling is not this, even if it's 10 seedlings, it is not, turns out it's not the same thing. So trying to do remediation or restorative work after you take down a 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old tree, we lose ground. So all these old men that are standing around, it turns out we need to keep them. And there's a lot of information on this. So I know trees capture approximately 50% of the carbon that we don't need in the atmosphere. It's the excess, the pollution. And monoculture turf grass can capture some of it. Native, if it was sort of native meadow, untouched, it would capture even more. So it's sort of, as we're learning, it's more in levels. So keeping the trees and the understory, I did notice, I walked around the course, I'm not sure why, I'll speak to Jim. I noticed what I would consider, what's considered understory, which is the mid-growth stuff. I noticed in one area was taken down. It was way off the course. I'm not sure why it was taken down, but that provides habitat. So these are just things to be aware of. And I just think if we have some procedure to review as we go along, since we do have the least tree canopy in Fairfield County, that we take a look at protecting as much as we can. And I hope that you will join me in that, and that we can work together a little more, and not feel like these are two distinct sides of the park. It's all one park, and I'm glad that that people are golfing and that they're enjoying it. That financially we're more sustainable. This is all good. You know, donations have been coming in for different parts. You know, our different efforts, and I see this as we have unified goals, and I celebrate that. So that's my report.
Thank you so much. Absolutely true. I will try to make time on the 23rd. It may be a little bit of a challenge for me.
I'll send you an invite. I'll send it in.
And you
all
know,
are welcome anytime.
We'll send it out to the rest. Yeah.
Thank you.
And about that procedure, I think it makes some sense. I'll follow up with Darius to see how that process of creating the procedure should go. All right, thank you, Audrey.
Maybe Jim can clarify for us. I was under the understanding that it was Eversource who really had to come in, and it was beyond our control about a few of the trees.
I think if that's actually the question, I think we can put that aside. We're going to have to move on to get the meeting moving. But if you wanted to shoot that as an email for clarification, please do, Paul. Thank you. I didn't leave other time for questions for Audrey, but we should. Are there any other questions or comments for Audrey? All right, hearing none. We can move on to the next item of business, which is technically old business, new business. The first item, sub-item under there would be the tennis agreement and this is for a vote. And Denise, because you led the charge on this, along with Mark, I wonder if you'd be able to walk us through it a little bit, just give us a high level, and then we can take it up as a motion. I'm on mute telling you you're on mute, so
Hi, now
We'll
can
get
you
it.
hear me?
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just have to pull up the agreement because I had it on my screen and now it sort of went away. Did everybody receive the lease to take a view of it? I mean, it was
Yep.
circulated a couple of times. So. Sorry.
Denise, is this a fully executed lease?
Well, it is. We had already had a meeting. We had a couple of meetings with Kings Highway and the owner, which is Jeff Golke. So we had gone back and forth in regards to the lease and, you know, where we stand with it. And he and Carl and myself and Mark, we sort of had come to an agreement regarding, you know, the financials of the lease and how we were going to go with a 5-year lease. And then we did go ahead and have it approved because it was sort of getting to the point where, you know, he wanted to get his everything in order because he has to do a whole lot of preparation for the courts to start in late April. So we were getting a little late in our timeline. And plus, I think, you know, there was a time where a month where we just totally skipped the lease, where we didn't even speak about it because of other activities and things that were going on. So that's why it went ahead and we did execute it. Basically, what is probably the best part of the lease is that we were able to take the lease money and we bumped it up because last year we only received $15,000 for the season. Now we're going to be receiving for the first year, it's a 5-year lease. So the first year was $40,000. I believe the second year, I still don't have it up in front of me, but I believe the second year we're going to receive $42,000. Now the season goes from basically May 1st, a little bit at the end of April, and then it runs and it ends on September 1st. So it's basically a 4-month lease. And it's going to be, it's going to continue to grow in the lease amount. And in 5 years, we'll be receiving, I believe it's like $49,500 for the, is that, you're agreeing with me, Mark?
Yeah, it's 49,000 in year 5. And just one quick clarification, the past 2 years, we've received $25,000 per year, not 15.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
25,000 for each leased year, what it was?
Correct. It was a 2-year lease of 25 each. Yeah.
Right. One of the main things on the lease that we have made a commitment with is to make some capital improvements to the tennis courts ourselves. So we committed to $9,000 or up to $9,000 a year for an improvement. So it would total up to $45,000 for the full 5 years. Not quite sure if we would just be spending $9,000 a year or up to $45,000 within 2 or 3 years. It just depends on how we would approach a couple of issues that we have with the lease. I mean, with the tennis courts itself. And the main issue is our fencing and the way that it has decayed. And I mean, you know, when you drive by the tennis courts, it's very visible from the road. So you see kind of one of the first things you see from Oak Hills when you drive by is how bad the courts look. So that is something that I'm working on. I did speak with Jeff Golke. I'm just getting quotes right now. So I'm hoping that we can figure out how to, you know, improve the look of the courts and be able to get new fencing. And we are going to be doing some fundraising. But basically the lease is, it's a good lease. It's a good agreement. And, you know, Jeff is a great businessman to work with. He supports our tennis organization. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
Denise, I just want to say, nice job with that. That It's great to see somebody with a little oomph to get things done over there. We haven't, it seems like the last time the lease was done, it was like they accepted it and moved on and took their whipping and that was it. But great job.
Yep.
I think what you're doing over there is terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks.
I'm impressed with the increase over the last couple of years. Good job.
Thanks. Anybody have any other concerns? I mean, is this something we could vote on now?
Yeah, we should vote to, it's a contract, and so we as an authority should vote to authorize the contract. Even though it's already been executed, we still should authorize it.
So should I make a motion to authorize the contract?
Sure.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Can I second it?
I don't see why not.
Yes, you can.
I'm only acting. I'm not. Okay, so we have a motion and seconded. It's a little bit more, this will be a voice, a roll call, if we don't mind. So I will vote to approve. Ms. Brown, how do you vote?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, Ms. McAllister,
I approve.
Mr. Williams,
I approve.
Ms. Bromark,
I approve.
Mr. Shake,
I approve.
and Mr. De Palma.
I approve.
And I think that's all of our members on. Yeah. Okay, so all approved. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Mark. Next on the agenda is the employment contract. And this would be for the quote unquote general manager position. This was distributed a couple of days ago to the authority members for review. And there has been some comment. I'll give a brief synopsis of this contract, and then we can determine exactly how we want to deal with it. So the highlights of the employment agreement is, as I already mentioned, it's the general manager, and those responsibilities were laid out in the exhibit. It would be a role that reports directly to the OHPA, and the existing management roles would continue also to report to the OHPA directly. So not to any specific member of OHPA, to the board as a whole. The term of the contract is 3 years, beginning fairly soon, just as soon as it's executed. I won't mention salary, but it does define a salary for the first year, and it doesn't lay out any specific rules or contractual increases in subsequent years, so those would all be performance-based. It is no benefits are associated with the role. It is expected to be less than 1,750 hours for the year, for any calendar year. Just a couple of things about kind of protecting. There's a 2-year non-disclosure agreement after the contract ends, and that's ending for any reason. Whether it's just the normal term of the contract or whether it's an early termination. And speaking of that, there's either side, there's 60-day advance notice for contract termination with no need for cause. And it can be immediate if there is cause on our side. So those are some of the highlights that I wanted to mention of the contract. I know everybody's had this for a couple of days to be able to review and go over. And so I'll open it up for the authority members if there's any discussion that we want to have or any questions. I should be able to handle most of them. I think we have our counsel, Randy Avery, on. He should be able to handle anything else. And if not, we can take them away. So any questions or comments?
Joe, I want to go back to my original, I'm sorry, it's me, Ray Ann. I want to go back to the original question that I asked you and Mike about, of this 1,500, like 1,750 hours. Could you explain it to us for the full authority to know why we are doing this and what the reason was? I mean, I understand it from you and like Mike, but I think the entire authority should know that part of the contract and why we're doing it. So,
Sure, I'll take a stab at it, and Randy and Mark may be best equipped to provide guardrails for me, but effectively 1,750 hours per federal employment law defines it's not federal, Mark?
Per our employee manual. It's
Per
our
our employee
specific,
manual.
it's
Oh, I see.
our
Okay. Yeah,
rule.
as
defines an exempt employee. With that, no benefits would be associated with the role. It maps to about 35 hours per week, 50 weeks per year.
But, and I'm sorry, but at that point, my question to Mike, when I spoke to Mike, was, what do we do on these like weeks when he has such an event, you know, as a tournament, et cetera, and he goes over his 37 whatever 0.5 hours per week? I mean, that was my main concern over this whole thing.
Sure, yeah.
So,
No, it makes sense. And if it were truly an hourly design for the compensation, that would be a question. But it's a salaried role. So the salary is, you know, it's part of the regular biweekly process that we pay. And so if there's overtime required because it's June and there's a lot of work to be done and there's a lot of hours to work, well, the idea would be, just like the way I work, in the off season in February, when there's not a lot of hours to work, he'll kind of quote unquote get that time back.
right. I mean, as I said, I just want to make sure everybody understands the same question I had. So,
Sure. Yep. No, and it did come up across a couple of people I know in emails and phone conversations. So thank you for bringing it up. Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the employment contract?
I guess my next question is, when is this person going to start? Who is this person? What are their qualifications? And why are we gonna like have an actual contract with them without us as an authority, like seeing his resume, you know, like actually going through his background, et cetera, so.
Sure, thank you. But maybe Mike can also support me on this, but I'll give it a whirl to start. We can all kind of meet before. I mean, this is not an executed contract, right? So as we have a candidate identified, we can all meet separately. The idea is, we want to focus on the contract, right? So do we agree with the tenets of the contract and the way it's set up? And then, you know, separately, we can meet and kind of informally agree about the actual person who comes in. But, you know, the person that I think we've identified has a lot of experience in, especially in food and beverage and kind of public facing businesses. So, you know, I would kind of answer it that way. We're focused on the contract right now, not necessarily the candidate.
No. But I do think as an authority, though, we do need to think of this grouply, you know, so we can approve the contract tonight. But yet, I do think the full authority should approve the candidate instead of just a quote unquote like committee. So. That's just my 2 cents, but
Sure. No, I think it's a interesting idea. I'm not gonna take it directly as, I'm just chair for tonight.
yeah, I'm
So-
not, Joe, like, I'm not knocking you, but
No,
I
no, no, yeah.
think I think ultimately, like, the full authority should ultimately approve who we're gonna have as the ultimate, like, restaurant person, not just like the restaurant quote unquote committee that we set up. So I think it has to be full authority, so.
Got it. Okay.
Joe, just a question to that. How were things handled in the past? Was it an approved situation in the past when the other people came in and ran the restaurant? Or was,
I don't think I was actually here at that time.
I don't think you were, Joe, actually.
I don't think
Yeah.
any of
Just-
us were.
Just one thing on that. I know you just said about running the restaurant. This is specifically for an employment contract. And I could just speak to what happened with me. When I came in, I interviewed with Pat Williams, the treasurer at the time, as well as Jerry. Is he still on? Jerry's still on, who was the chair at the time. I don't know if my resume was passed around to everyone, but I didn't meet with everyone. And my position was just newly created at the time and the bylaws were changed. So I'm going to say that I personally, I think that just the 3 guys who were working on it, I know they put in a lot of time. I do respect Rayanne's point, though. Maybe more information could have been told, but I don't think everyone needs to be involved in one person's hiring. Personally, that's just my personal.
Okay. So Rand, what I'll do is I'll bring this back to Carl. I mean, he may be watching. I don't know if he's
Yeah,
doing this.
he could be watching, but no, I just want to make sure, like, we're all on the same page, and we're all with the same, so.
Sure. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments on the employment contract? Okay. So as per Rand's comments, focusing on the actual contract. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion for the authority to authorize the contract?
This is Mike. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone to second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And let's do a voice vote for the employment contract. I'll go in the order that they're on my screen. So Ms. Brown.
yes, I agree.
I approve it.
I approve.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
thank
sorry.
you. No, that's okay. I also approve it. Mr. Williams?
I approve it.
Thank you. Ms. Bromark?
No, I do not approve it.
Okay. Ms. McAllister?
I approve.
Mr. De Palma?
I approve.
And Mr. Shake?
I approve.
Okay, thank you. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 approve and 1 reject. 1 nay
Correct.
vote.
Yes.
Okay. But by that count, the motion passes. And we can move on to the next agenda item.
Joe, can I ask you a question? Who do we have, like, in place, like, for this position? Have you guys even started hiring somebody? Do we have somebody hired? Like, where do we stand at the hiring process now that we, like, approved a contract? So.
Right. So I would say that the discussion on that topic is closed, but I'll answer your question that we do have someone in mind. We believe a very qualified candidate, the folks who have been working on it. And we should take up this discussion kind of as a group
Okay, but,
and
okay, I guess, so my next question is I'm sorry to shut you off, is when do you expect that the authority, as an authority itself, will actually discuss this comment, since you already cut us off, so,
I think we should do that as soon as possible. And
okay,
we can
so,
conduct that. I don't think there's anything to officially approve on that. So I think
No,
that
but-
email can be conducted via, or that discussion can be conducted via email or
via
in
email,
separate calls.
special meeting, whatever, but my thing is, I think the authority should know who the committee has thought of, who is thinking of hiring, et cetera, because your contract that you sent us was like blah, 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 blank, blah, 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 blank, so I mean, I think you could tell the actual authority who is being filled in by this blank, so I think we should have a special meeting, or I think there should be an email, like literally sent, like within the next day or two, saying who this blank is, so the full authority knows before we actually sign the contract.
If I could just jump in quick, I believe that has to be done in executive session, right, Joe? Because
What?
it's a
That was what I was
employee
gonna
with
say.
employee, and it's got, compensation in there. But I think we
Correct,
should
but
be,
I mean-
I think we should have the discussion for sure. I'm just thinking of the venue
I
of it.
mean,
I don't think we could do a
correct, but I mean,
special meeting.
we definitely need like a full executive, like authority, like
Oh,
decision on this, so I think we need to, we can approve the contract tonight under the circumstances of XYZ, blank, 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 and blah, 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 blank, 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 et cetera, but yet ultimately the full authority needs to know who the blank is. Do we approve of him, et cetera, and we, as a full authority, does have to ultimately vote on this person. So I think we need either a special meeting or, so that's just my 2 cents, guys. I'm sorry, but.
Okay, thank you, Rayanne. I think you've made that point. And so we'll bring that back. We'll discuss it with the executive committee and determine exactly how we should proceed with it based on the history, which, some of the staff have the longer history than even we do. So, there'll be a lot of inputs to that discussion, but I'll just say on the surface, I agree with you. We should all have input and certainly some knowledge. The process, as it really should work, is get the contract right and then start talking about the candidate. So that's what we're trying to do. So thank you. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which would be the sub item under item 8, the restaurant license, the food service license for Oak Hills. And I'll give the highlights and then we can open for discussion. So this contract would cover all the food and beverage operations at Oak Hills, including the restaurant services, on-site outings and banquets, the halfway house, a beverage cart, and a snack bar up at the tennis courts. I believe that's really everything that's there in scope right now. It's a 5-year contract term, so that it would actually extend through the end of 2026. The licensee has an out clause after 3 years, so that would be December 2024. The other severability parts of it are 3-month advance notice from either side for contract termination without need for cause. So that just kind of talks about when the contract is going to be over and what the outs are for either party. The fee structure is very different from what we've done in the past. So it's not a rental agreement. per se. It is going to be based upon gross sales from the food services operations. And that in the contract, I'm sure you'll have noticed that there's a specific definition of gross sales, which excludes any proceeds collected for gratuities to the wait staff and excludes sales tax that's collected. So it's really just the sales of the food that's being sold, food and drink that's being sold. The only part of the operation that would be excluded from the gross sales number would be the beverage cart. So any other revenue that comes through on Oak Hill's property would be in scope for 10% collection. The nuances of that are that we've capped it at 60,000 revenue payable to Oak Hills through March 2022. That's effectively the first year of operation. And that's really to kind of assure that, they are able to really have a successful first year. If they exceed that, so effectively that would mean if they exceed $600,000 of gross sales, they still only need to pay us $60,000 through March 2022. No caps are in place thereafter, though. So if it really takes off, they have a very successful first year, and they continue to have successful years, our income is purely tied to their revenue. So there's only upside if they're successful for us. There's specific items laid out for late payments and how that should work. The payment term is quarterly. And we also put in 2 items in the contract that really assure that we have a lot of transparency into the operation, which is not common for a restaurant. One is that we lay out specifics for how financial reporting should be done, so that we can make sure that we're getting the itemization and the detail that we need to be able to determine really where the sales are happening and what we're getting. And then the other item is we put in a stipulation that Oak Hills Park Authority at our expense can call for an audit of the financials. And it would cover kind of the prior year, and it would give us real insight into the operations. Not something we expect to use, but something that we definitely want to have in there as a safeguard. So overall, this increases the revenue of the restaurant. Even with the cap, if we were to hit the cap, it would be almost threefold versus what our expectations are or were under the prior arrangements. And it could be even more than that if they're even more successful and bring in more gross revenue. And it also has kind of the checks and balances in place to make sure that we're able to really understand what the food service operation is bringing in there and make sure that we're getting our fair share. So, I've been through it probably over the past month several times. And I know Mike and Babar have been through it as well. Carl, unfortunately, I'm sure he would love to be here to kind of present this and ferry it through. But he also has been through this many, many times. And of course, all these contracts have gone through, I should have mentioned this with the employment contract as well, but this is not us writing it. This is really penned by our counsel, Randy Avery. And then, we kind of have twisted and bended it as we saw fit along the way. So those are, I feel like that wasn't highlights. That was almost as long as the contract was. So I apologize if I was long-winded, but let's open it up to discussion. Any questions or comments on the restaurant license agreement?
I have one.
Hi, Denise.
Who's going to be holding the liquor license?
The LLC that's running the food service operation will be holding the liquor license.
Okay, so they will have applied for it, and it's then under their name, which means that they are totally responsible for making the payments and everything that goes along with the liquor license, keeping it up to the regulations for it.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions or comments?
Do we want to add anything in there about mediation as opposed to lawyers in case things kind of get a little rocky?
I hope Randy is able to unmute and kind of chat about this for a moment. I don't know if Randy is available right now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey,
I'm
Randy.
happy to, I'll get myself on screen too.
Oh, great.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm pretty relaxed while I'm listening.
Yeah,
to
I
you.
guess so.
You're doing a good job.
I'm trying.
So, was that your question, Denise?
The liquor
That
license?
was
whose
Jennifer about
Oh.
mediation.
Okay, sorry, I just don't have everybody on my screen.
That's okay. No, it was mine.
Yeah, let me explain to you why I generally don't favor these mediation clauses. They're incredibly expensive to enact. If you follow the American Arbitration Association, you will be paying several $1,000s to the association to set up your dispute. And then you will be paying a retired attorney $450 to $550 an hour to review documents and consider your claims. And if you actually have the mediation with an arbitration outcome, in other words, that same person arbitrates the outcome, that can run into the many tens of thousands of dollars. And it comes as a great surprise to people who ordinarily sign these kind of agreements until there's actually a full mediation or arbitration. What we tried to do in this license is make it easy for us to end it so that we don't have to go to the trouble of actually mediating a dispute professionally, because either side can opt out of this agreement within a couple of months. That's a lot of leverage. So it puts a strong inducement on any disagreement among the parties to resolve it, because otherwise it can be ended. So it's the same effect without having a mediation clause.
Okay. If the other party or both parties are willing to just kind of cut ties and go, but you never, I don't know. I just wasn't sure in the event that, everyone's always happy in the beginning and then all of a sudden things tend to start to get a little hairy towards the end, right? And that's where I was looking to protect us right, in the event that we all, for lack of a better terminology, fall out of love with each other.
Yeah, I've just found that the process in Connecticut for litigation, although not in this COVID time, is generally as fast and less expensive than initiating with a mediation, at least a professionally structured mediation. Most of these mediation clauses that you would read in a contract are American Arbitration Association rules and procedures, which themselves are quite arcane and expensive to apply. Okay. So this is just from my experience of seeing it happen. I always thought those clauses would be helpful too. They just turn out to be surprisingly expensive.
Okay, just thought I'd throw it out there as an option to try to protect everybody involved.
And I'm just explaining my thinking.
Nope, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, thoughts on the restaurant license agreement? Okay. Hearing none.
I'd make a motion to.
No, yeah.
Not yet. Motion to accept it or approve it.
I think, yeah, I think it would be motion to authorize it. So Bob, would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to authorize it. The contract for food and beverage.
Any seconds?
This is Mike. I'll second it.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Let's do a roll call, and I'll go probably in the same order, but just what's on my screen. Ms. Brown?
I approve.
Thank you. Mr. Andrusco, me, I approve. Mr. Williams,
I abstain.
thank you. Ms. McAllister,
I approve.
thank you. Ms. Bromark, Ms. Bromark, if you're trying to vote, I think you're on mute.
Rayanne. She might have went to the bathroom. I don't know.
Well,
I'm unapproving, guys, okay? I'm unapproved. I actually am against, so I'm
okay,
against.
all right, thank you. Mr. De Palma,
I approve.
thank you. And Mr. Shake.
I approve.
So that was, by my count, 5 approves, 1 against, and 1 abstain. Does everyone agree?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right. Then 5 to 1 to 1, the motion would pass. So the contract is authorized.
Technically, it doesn't. We don't have a quorum yet.
We do have a quorum.
How do you call that a quorum? Because Carl's not here, John De Palma's not here, and we have 1 abstain, which is a minus vote, and I vote against. So
I believe it's just a
technically-
straight majority, so 5 out of the 9, correct, Joe?
No, I think we don't have a
Yes.
minority vote. I don't think we have a majority vote yet, so.
So we have a quorum because we have more than 5 members present.
Correct.
And the charter of the authority says that contracts need to be authorized by approval of 5 or more of the members. So 5
Correct.
or more of the members have approved the contract.
Okay, so who technically, I'm sorry, who technically has approved? Because I declined and Darius.
Everyone
like-
except you and I approved. So that leaves
And
Jen
Darius-
McAllister, Joe Androsco, Rand. That leaves Jen McAllister, Joe Androsco, Denise Brown, Mike De Palma, and Babar, who approved it.
So do we have 5?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to make sure we're doing this like correctly. So.
All good. All good. Motion
Okay.
carries.
Okay, yes, thank you, Darius. You're auditioning for chair, I think. The motion does carry. So pulling up the agenda, I think that was the old business, new business. I suppose we should ask.
For a motion to
is there
adjourn?
we can make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yes.
Anybody second it?
Oh, hell no. Let's
Okay.
get it over with. We're done.
So I second officially Babar's motion to adjourn
I'll
this
just
meeting.
ask if there's any anyone against it. Okay, hearing none.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Good meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Appreciate it.